I never expected to be humiliated at my own sister's engagement party. The lights were warm, the smiles rehearsed, and her voice carried effortlessly when she laughed and said I was just admin at a courthouse. People chuckled. Someone clinked a glass. My chest burned, yet I stayed quiet, as I always did. Then her fiancé turned toward me, studying my face like he'd seen it somewhere before. "So, what do you actually do?" he asked. I didn't explain. I didn't defend myself. I said one word. What happened next wasn't loud, dramatic, or messy, but it changed how my family saw me forever. My name is Verity for as long as I can. Remember, my family has loved neat labels, the kind you can say quickly at dinner, the kind that don't invite follow-up questions. My sister, Evelyn, was always the impressive one. Ambitious, charismatic, the type of person who could enter a room and make it orbit around her. And me? I was the quiet one, the reliable one, the one who worked at the courthouse. That phrase followed me everywhere. Thanksgiving tables, birthday dinners, casual calls with relatives who hadn't seen me in years. "So, you're still doing admin work?" they'd ask, smiling as if being kind. I'd nod. "Yeah, still there." Then the conversation would move on. What they didn't see was how carefully I'd learned to stay invisible around them, not out of shame, but because every time I tried to explain, their eyes glazed over. I learned early that my accomplishments made people uncomfortable, especially Evelyn. So I softened my words, rounded the edges, let them believe in the smaller version of MIT, kept the peace. At home, the pattern never changed. Evelyn talked, everyone listened. My parents leaned in when she spoke about her work, her milestones, her plans. When I spoke, forks scraped plates. Someone reached for more wine. It wasn't cruelty, it was habit, and habits are hard to break. There was only one person who ever looked at me differently. My cousin Lily. She noticed the late nights, the way I carried myself, the way my phone buzzed at odd hours. She knew the truth, even when I never said it aloud. Sometimes she'd squeeze my hand under the table, as if reminding me I wasn't invisible everywhere. I told myself I didn't need validation from my family. I told myself their opinions didn't matter, but that was only half true. Every time. Evelyn laughed at my courthouse job. Something inside me tightened. Not anger, not yet. Something quieter, something heavier. By the time her engagement party came around, I already knew how the night would unfold. I'd arrive early, help where needed, smile when introduced, leave before anyone noticed I was gone. I didn't expect respect. I didn't expect curiosity. What I didn't expect was a question that refused to let the lie survive another minute. The engagement party was exactly what you'd expect from Evelyn. Picture perfect, overdone, carefully curated to impress. String lights stretched across the backyard like a stage. Sunset. White flowers were everywhere. A banner with their names hung so high it felt like it was watching us. I arrived early, as always. Before I could set my purse down, my mom handed me a stack of napkins and pointed toward the drink table. "Can you help over there?" she said, already turning away. No eye contact. No question marked up. By the time guests began arriving, I'd already refilled ice twice and wiped down a counter no one had used. I told myself it was fine. I was used to this role. Useful, quiet, out of the way. Then Evelyn arrived. She stepped out of the car, glowing like a diamond, catching the light as if it had its own spotlight. People gathered around her instantly. Compliments flew. Cameras flashed. Her fiancé Danny followed close behind, polished, calm, smiling, like someone who knew how to hold the room without trying too hard. He shook hands, thanked people, listened more than he spoke. At first he barely looked at me. Evelyn made sure everyone knew how successful he was. Big wins, big payments, big numbers. That sounded impressive but blurred together after a while. My parents beamed as if they'd had a hand in it. I stood, near the edge of the crowd, champagne untouched, watching the story I'd seen my whole life play out again. Then Evelyn noticed me. "Come here," she said, waving me over like an afterthought. "I don't think everyone's met my sister." She wrapped an arm around my shoulder and smiled wide. "Miss Verity, she works at the courthouse." A few polite nods, mild interest. "She's just admin," Evelyn added, laughing. "Keeps things organized, answers phones, you know how it is." Someone chuckled. Another person smiled. Like that explained everything. I felt the familiar heat rise in my chest. The old instinct kicked in. Smooth it over. Stay quiet. Let it pass. I looked down at my glass and took a slow breath. This wasn't new, it was just louder. But Daniel didn't laugh. He was watching me now, really watching. His smile faded slightly. His eyes searched my face, flipping through memories that didn't quite line up. I saw the moment of hesitation, the pause that didn't belong. Dinner was announced, and we moved to the table. I took a seat near the end, exactly where I was expected. Toasts were made. Evelyn soaked it all in, then raised her glass again. "Some people argue important cases," she said, nodding toward Daniel. "And some people answer phones. Right, Verity?" Her eyes flicked toward me, daring me to react. And that's when Daniel turned fully in his chair and looked straight at me. Wait, he said slowly. Verity, what exactly do you do at the courthouse? The table went still. Every eye shifted in my direction, and suddenly there was nowhere for the lie to hide. For a moment, no one spoke, not out of politeness, but because the question didn't fit the script. It hung there, awkward and exposed, like a wire pulled loose from the wall. I felt the weight of years pressing into my shoulders. I didn't answer immediately. I looked down at my hands resting on the table. One thumb traced the rim of my glass. The wood beneath my fingers was cool, solid, real. I could hear the low hum of the outdoor lights, the faint clatter of dishes from the kitchen, life continuing, even as something quietly cracked open. In that pause, 1,000 small moments rushed in. Every holiday I'd been asked to help set up. Every dinner where my work was summarized in a single word that made people comfortable. Every time I'd chosen silence because it seemed easier than watching disappointment flicker across my parents' faces. I remembered standing in my apartment late at night, shoes still on, rereading notes, preparing for another long day, knowing none of it would ever be mentioned at the table. I realized then I hadn't been protecting them by staying quiet, been protecting the version of me they preferred, the smaller one, the one who didn't challenge anyone's pride. Across from me, Evelyn was smiling too hard. Her jaw was tight, her eyes sharp, as if she could sense the shift even if she didn't understand it yet. My mother stared at her plate. My father reached for his glass and stopped halfway, unsure. Daniel was still watching me, not impatient, not mocking, just waiting. The old instinct told me to soften it, to say something vague, to keep the peace, one more time. But another feeling rose up, calm and steady. Not anger, not revenge, clarity. If I spoke now, the truth would land. If I stayed silent, the lie would live, and I would keep shrinking to make room for it. I understood then that this wasn't about embarrassing my sister or proving anything to a table full of people who had never really asked. It was about refusing to disappear anymore. I straightened slightly in my chair and set my glass down. The sound was small, but it cut through the quiet. My heartbeat slowed. The fear I'd carried for years loosened its grip just enough. I looked at Daniel first, then my parents, then finally at Evelyn. Whatever came next, there was no going back to who I'd been before this question. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't smile. I didn't explain. I said one word, judged it, landed softly, almost politely, but the effect was immediate. The air shifted, not dramatically, no gasps, no shouting, but as if someone had turned off the background noise of the world. Conversations died mid-breath. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Even the string lights seemed to hum louder in the sun. Quiet. For a second, no one moved. My mother's face drained of color so fast it startled me. Her lips parted, then closed again, searching for a sentence she'd never rehearsed. My father blinked hard, his hand tightening around his glass before setting it down carefully, as if it might shatter. Evelyn laughed, sharp, brittle. Oh my God, she said, waving a hand. Very funny. I didn't look at her. I kept my eyes on Daniel. He hadn't laughed. He hadn't moved. His expression had changed in a way I recognized. Confusion, not anger, but recognition, finally snapping into place. He leaned back slowly, studying me as if reassembling a memory piece by piece. Judge, he repeated softly. Then, for just a fraction of a second, his eyes widened. Verity Cole, he added, naming the courthouse downtown. Silence hung thick. He presided over my case last year, he continued. The one with the corporate dispute. I stood before you more than once. The quiet deepened, heavy and undeniable, like an owl perched in the night. Evelyn's smile froze. What are you talking about? She snapped, spinning toward him. She works admin. She answers phones. You've met her twice, maybe? Daniel ignored her. I know what admin work looks like, he said calmly, and I know what a judge looks like. He turned to me. You were fair, direct. You didn't grandstand. You listened. That's why I remember. My father finally found his voice. You're a judge? He asked, disbelief thick in his tone. Since when? 3 years, I said evenly. My mother shook her head as if the very word made no sense. But you said you were assisting someone. I said I was, I replied, at the beginning. After that, no one ever asked. Then it hit them, not all at once, but slowly, painfully. The realization that the story they'd repeated for years hadn't been corrected. Not because it was true, but because it was convenient. Because it didn't threaten the balance they were used to. Evelyn leaned back in her chair slightly, eyes darting between faces. This is ridiculous, she said. You let everyone believe you were admin? Who does that? I met her gaze for the first time. I didn't lie, I said. I stopped correcting you. Her face flamed. You did this on purpose? She snapped. You waited until my engagement party to embarrass me? I shook my head. You embarrassed yourself. I answered a question. You asked. In front of everyone? She turned to Daniel, voice rising. You knew? You knew she was a judge and didn't tell me? I didn't know. I never connected Judge Cole to your sister, he said. You never said her last name. You never let her speak. That hit harder than anything I could have said. Around the table, reactions rippled outward. My uncle stared at his hands, muttering under his breath. My grandmother reached across the table, gently squeezing my wrist, like she'd been waiting for this moment longer than anyone. I always knew, she said softly. You carried yourself differently. Evelyn sprang up so abruptly her chair scraped against the stone patio, the sound slicing through the stillness. This is my night, she said, voice quivering. And you've ruined it. You always do this. You always make it about you. I stayed seated, silent, until you mocked me, until you turned me into a joke in front of your fiancé and our family. That wasn't accidental. There was a choice. Her mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, no comeback came. Daniel stood slowly. Evelyn, he said carefully. The way you spoke to her, she cut him off. Don't, you're supposed to be on my side. I'm on the side of the truth, he replied. And I don't know how I missed this. How would let you speak about your own sister like that? That was the breaking point. Not loud, not explosive, but complete. Evelyn looked around the table and realized the orbit had shifted. The attention she had always commanded was gone. No one laughed. No one defended her. Even my parents sat frozen, caught between the daughter they had always praised and the one they had never truly seen. This is unbelievable, she whispered. You think you're better than me now? No, I said. I think I finally stopped pretending to be less. She stared for a long second, something raw and frightened, flickering behind her anger. Then she turned and walked inside, heels striking the floor like punctuation at the end of a sentence. Daniel hesitated, looked at me. There was conflict in his eyes, but also respect. I need to talk to her, he said quietly. I nodded. After they left, the table remained silent. Champagne grew warm. Plates sat untouched. My mother reached for my hand. Why didn't you tell us? She asked softly. I didn't pull away. Every time I tried to be seen, I said, you looked away. No one argued. And in that stillness, I felt something unfamiliar settle in my chest, not triumph, not relief, but like finally setting down a weight I had carried for years and realizing I didn't have to pick it up again. The next morning, I woke to a quiet phone and a strange sense of calm. No dread, no replaying the night in my head. Just sunlight through the blinds and the city humming outside my window. Then the messages came. Missed calls, long texts, short apologies, clumsy, but sincere. Relatives suddenly wanting to catch up. My parents left 2 voicemails. I listened to neither. Around midday, there was a knock at my door. Daniel stood there, tired, like someone who hadn't slept but had thought a lot. We sat at opposite ends of my couch, coffee cooling between us. He didn't make excuses. He didn't defend her. I can't unsee it now, he said. The way she spoke to you, the way everyone let it happen? I nodded. Nothing to add. I don't know what this means for us yet, he admitted, but I can't ignore it. When he left, the apartment felt lighter, not empty, it's just honest. A few days later, Evelyn showed up unannounced. No makeup, hair pulled back. The version of her that never appeared at family gatherings. We didn't hug, we didn't fight. I'm scared, she said finally. Scared of being ordinary, of being second. I believed her. I'm not here to compete, I told her. I never was. She nodded slowly, as if hearing it for the first time. We weren't suddenly close. Nothing fixed overnight, but something had shifted. My parents asked questions and actually waited for answers. Lily smiled across dinner tables. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to explain myself. I used to think staying quiet was kindness. I was wrong. Silence didn't protect anyone. It taught people how small they could make me. The truth. You don't owe anyone a smaller version of yourself to keep the peace. If you've ever hidden your growth so others feel comfortable, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments. And if this resonated, hit subscribe. You deserve to be seen.